So the Oklahoma is kind of a hilarious ship. You get 8.3 kilometer secondary range at tier 5, which is nuts. That's more than any tier 7 battleship gets at tier 5, which is just incredible. Of course, the accuracy is not great at the moment because you only get 15% improved dispersion from manual secondaries, so it's kind of a meme at the moment, but it's a pretty fun one. And the big bonus of having 127 millimeter American secondaries at tier 5 is you can full pen basically everything without IFHE. How hilarious is that? So you can, all your secondary pens or hits will be pens essentially. So it's actually kind of hilarious how good this ship is. It won't actually deal damage to like the really old style battleships like Bayern or some of the Russian low tier ones where they're just covered in like ridiculously high amounts of armor everywhere. But cruisers, other American battleships at the tier, it's so good against. It's pretty funny. I have a lot of fun with it. The downsides of this ship are pretty obvious, I think. You're incredibly slow, you're incredibly large, you have no armor, and you have a pretty easy to hit citadel. You have a 40-second reload on some of the worst performing guns in the game as far as their pen value goes. These are one of the worst AP shells in the game as far as their pen is concerned. So you're not going to be citadeling things like a New York at these ranges. That just won't happen. So you'll see me in this game often aim for upper belts or superstructure hits, because you're just going to shatter or bounce off of a belt armor unless you're at super close range or you're facing a cruiser. But that's not to say it's that bad. The dispersion is pretty good. You just have to wait 40 seconds for these guns to reload. And, 10 guns at tier 5 is pretty solid, especially given their dispersion. It is longer to wait, obviously, than something like a New York or a Texas, but you have a nicer turret layout where you don't have that awkward middle turret that doesn't hit anything. Well, it does hit stuff, but you have to give flat broadside to get that turret off. So a little more comfortable turret layout. Turrets definitely turn slowly, but the big reason why you play this ship is the secondaries, in my opinion. It's so hilarious to have long-range secondaries at this tier. So you just want to push in and make use of them, basically. Now, they are pretty easy to counter because you just stay outside of 8 kilometers. And even if you are within 8 kilometers, they probably won't hit you that hard, especially if you're in a destroyer. But, every little hit on a DD matters. And let's be honest, the captain changes are pretty depressing coming up here. But this ship will actually get better dispersion on its secondaries because the manual secondary change is making all ships at all tiers have 35% accuracy on their secondaries. So currently, or 35% improved accuracy, I should say. Currently, this is what you're seeing is 15% improved accuracy. It'll go up to 35, so it's going to be better in the new patch. This is the one ship that's getting an actual buff on its secondaries in the new patch, which is kind of funny in my mind. I know a lot of people really, really dislike this ship, but I like it. The really nice thing I've found is the heal, actually. Surprisingly, very, very, very strong. It's not a nice heal like a Massachusetts where it comes up every 40 seconds, but you still heal for 10,000 HP. It's like the improved heal that most of the other standard American battleships got. That buff happened a little while ago where Montana suddenly can heal over 20k HP. And this ship gets the same thing. And it's actually pretty nice, assuming you're not taking massive AP volleys or you're not taking torpedoes. Those are the things you got to stay away from. But it's pretty nice. You just got to make sure you know how to position your battleship, because this thing will not be able to run away from anything. There is no way you're getting away from any ship or any bad situation. So you need to know when to push in and how to push in. And I've got a lot of videos talking about that. But the main thing is isolating 1v1 fights, using islands to push up safely, that kind of thing. is pretty important. Also, not getting torped by DDs is also pretty important. Because as you can see, you can hardly heal any of that back. So that's a big downside of this ship, is it's pretty easy to torp because it's so slow and it doesn't actually turn that well. The turning radius is pretty decent, but the rudder shift is a little sluggish, so something to worry about there. But you can see it's been pretty slow start, and that's what you have to do with a ship like this. And in fact, most secondary battleships, I am trying to play more passively near the start of games. And yes, I say start of games, even though we're almost 10 minutes into this match. It feels like the brawling and pushing and interesting part that I love about this game can only happen at the end of games, or near the middle to end of the video game, which is kind of sad, but at least it's still possible right now, which is nice. Fortunately, the carrier isn't going to come grief me this game. I got pretty lucky in that. Usually, the carrier comes right for me from the very beginning because they see a secondary battleship, or they see my name, or whatever, or I'm in a forward position and they just come focus me, which is too bad, but I understand it as far as the when I'm in a very vulnerable position. I get it. I don't like it because it doesn't require any skill to deal damage to me, but CV discussion is for another time, shall we? The Iron Duke should be just spamming HE at me. His AP will hurt, but I mean, we all know what British battleships are designed to do, right? And that is to spam HE, unfortunately, but that is their preferred ammo type. Now, you'll see that in this situation, I am just hard charging, and that's because my team is also pushing and they're dying. So this game could easily flip in the enemy team's favor if we start taking a bunch of 1v1s. We are a single ship against 3 or 4 enemy ships. So that's what just happened to my div mate. Just got ganged up on by 3 battleships there. And it's soon to be our turn. So we need to play this as smart as we can. It's still likely going to be a win. But it is possible to throw this. It's games like this that you can throw. So pushing around a corner, for example, into these 3 battleships is a really, really, really bad idea. So that's why I'm probably just going to sit behind this island and wait. Wait for them to make a move. It's really important to know patience in a battleship, especially when you're pushing up, because you can't just push into everything. We need to wait for our heal to come back up. If we used our damage control, it would be really important to wait for our damage control to come back up. All these things require you to play smart. And that's what I like about this game. If you saw my previous video with the Alsace, you'll know that my favorite part about this game is making decisions and being rewarded or punished based on if that decision was a good idea or not. So right now, just popping a plane to hopefully get some vision. I'm a little scared of the Bayern and the Iron Duke. Bayern hasn't been spotted for a long time, and obviously he overmatches me everywhere. And you can see he's on his way to come around the corner on us. So I'm debating turning for the Fubuki, but at any minute the Iron Duke can come out. So you can't just give broadside to a battleship at these ranges. And you'll see that we still take a reasonable chunk from him. And we do quite a bit in return. And that's because I aimed high. You cannot aim for belt armor with this ship. It's just not, it doesn't have the pen. Maybe at really close ranges you could, but it just really doesn't have the pen. It's kind of unfortunate in that way. It gets a bad reload and it doesn't have pen, but the secondaries, right? The secondaries, let's go, right? So we eat a torp from the Fubuki, which obviously hurts a ton. And look at how little we can heal. This is why ships with massive heals that rely on their heals, so Conqueror is a good example of this, need to avoid taking massive hits from destroyer torps, just torps in general. CV torps are not very healable in the same way. Any Citadel hits as well. Your entire goal is to avoid that kind of damage. You need to make sure the damage you take is mostly healable. Otherwise, you get in a situation like this where you have 2 heals remaining and you can't really heal anything back. You'll notice what I'm doing here is I'm trying my very hardest to push around this island and keep the Baron from shooting me, but I also have to keep in mind that the Iron Duke could slap my broadside and citadel me if I give too much broadside. So it's weighing that risk of giving broadside to the Iron Duke with the reward of not having to deal with the Baron for another couple seconds. It's a really delicate balance, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of skill to balance that out. And you'll notice our secondaries are doing some pretty good damage because they actually hit things at these ranges. And now, because we've dealt with the Iron Duke in a 1v1, we can now deal with the Baron in a pseudo 1v1. Our Koenig is helping, but he's basically dead. It's really cool, these kind of fights. Using islands, brawling it out at close range, where your dispersion isn't going to screw you over, where all that matters is your positioning, your angling, and your decision making. I love this stuff, and because of that, I like the Oklahoma. If you couldn't tell, I really, really like this ship, because at lower tier, you get a lot more of these situations. You know, and I got up-tiered into tier 6 game, but sometimes you get down-tiered into a tier 4 game, and sometimes you get those really, those really small maps, like, what's it called, like Big Race or something like that. Your secondaries reach like half the map. It's hilarious. It's a lot of fun. I really like this ship. Now, this is a one-off game where we get over 100k damage, which is pretty crazy for a tier 5 ship, I think. But it's fun. And I think low tier is something that I need to try out more. And by low tier, I mean like tier 5. I don't really think I should play, or I don't think I'd enjoy tier 2 that much, or tier 1. But you'll notice I aimed for his belt. Big mistake. 4 shatters. So it says torpedo protection hit, but basically what that means is you penned through his torpedo belt, but you shattered on the actual citadel protection behind it. So we shattered. And we missed out on a kill there because I didn't aim properly. I should have aimed for that guy's upper belt. And then we would have got a bunch of full pens, and we probably would have killed him. But 104 secondary hits? Not too shabby for a tier 5 battleship. At 107k. I had a lot of fun with this one, and this ship in general. So if you manage to get this one, I think it was some sort of like crate collection campaign thing. So if you manage to get it, maybe try it out with your Massachusetts captain, because it's a good time. And in fact, you know what? I'll show the captain in the build really quickly, just because I don't know if I've shown it in every video, but it's my standard kind of Massachusetts captain build. So the captain build is pretty standard, I think, for a all-in kind of secondary build. You'll see I have basic firing training, AFT, manual secondaries. And notice how right now it says for tier 1 to 6 ships, minus 15% dispersion. And then for the higher tier 6, it's minus 60%. That's changing to a flat 35%. So it's a nerf to the high tier ships and a buff to the low tier ships. So that's coming in patch 10.0, most likely. I'm still hoping they change it, but yeah, it's going to be a big nerf for the higher tier battleships. If you want to know more, just go check out my, I think I called it RIP Secondary Battleships or something like that, where I check out the PTS server. Using concealment on this ship actually is pretty nice. You get down to 11.8 kilometers, which is pretty decent. And the reason I don't use IFHE, for example, is you already pen 21 millimeters of armor with these secondaries. And you'll notice that a lot of battleships at tier 5 have 19 millimeters of armor. So you would just full pen this everywhere, which is hilarious. And a lot of the American battleships are like this. The Japanese battleships, I believe, are also similar in armor. Yeah, 19. I got a little bit more here, but you're unlikely to hit this little patch. It's going to be hitting here, or back here. So yeah, Oklahoma, very, very, very fun ship. In my mind, I enjoy this. Pretty standard upgrades. It's a good time to just kind of run around at tier 5 and secondary things. Even if your guns aren't that great, your secondaries are hilarious to use. So if you have this ship, I would encourage you to give it a shot. It's a pretty good time. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you have a great day.